What's up, everybody? Good morning. It is another day, so it's another free agency position to take a look at. And we're going to move right over to the right here, just bump over one spot to center. We did left guard. Now let's bang out center, another very important position on this line, very important position on this team going forward. As of right now, the Seahawks have one real center on their roster, and it's Oluwatimi. Now, I like Oluwatimi. I think he's got a good chance to be a valuable player in this league and has a decent chance of becoming a good starter as well. I know he was a relatively low pick. This was a very successful player in college. This was a player who was considered by many to be the best center in college. I know that his skill set didn't purely translate to the NFL, which is why several centers got drafted ahead of him. But Oluwatimi was very well respected in college. And if he is the center of the future for the Seattle Seahawks, I will not be surprised at all. However, he is currently the only one. And for whatever it's worth, it has to be said that he did not take the starting position away from Evan Brown last year, and Evan Brown didn't exactly play great. I don't think Evan Brown played terribly or anything, but if Oluwatimi was a special player, he probably could have taken that job, or at least really jockeyed hard for it. So that didn't happen. So we don't totally know what we have because he didn't play that much. And as for Evan Brown, he's a free agent, and he didn't play that well even when he did play. So we probably need a new center. The question is, are we going to make that new center the starter? Like, we're going to spend big on a really good center to bring him in here and have him take the starting job? Or do we need a backup for Oluwatimi? Or do we need to look at this a little bit differently and just say, let's go get the best guy we can and see what shakes out in camp? So that's the complexity here. We've got some players that I want to look at. The guys in this video are going to follow along the lines more of like the pure starter. If you bring them in, you're bringing them in to start. Some of these guys you'd be bringing in to start long term. They'd be here for a while, and they would be your guy for the, I'd say, at least next 3 years if all goes according to plan, and Oluwatimi becomes a backup, which there's nothing wrong with that. If Oluwatimi ends up being a long-term backup in this league for this team, then there's nothing wrong with that. He may end up being that. There are some limitations in his game, and he wasn't a blue chipper. So let's take a look at some options here. Now, first, there is going to be a little bit of crossover between yesterday's videos and today's videos that I'm not going to spend a ton of time on, but I do want to address it here. So Connor Williams is a guy I talked about yesterday, and we can also talk about him here because he's been playing center the last 2 years. So you could submit him in either category and say, okay, you signed this guy to a monster contract to be your left guard or your center, depending on what you end up feeling like he's better at. Again, I think he's going to be very expensive. I don't think he's going to be this expensive, but he's going to be close. It might be like 5 years 60 or 4 years 50, something like that. He's a very good player, and he's been very good at 2 different positions. Excuse me. But, yeah, you'd have to make a decision on whether or not you view him as a center or a left guard. There are a couple other players on this list who meet that criteria as well, like Cody Whitehair has played center before. Graham Glasgow has played center before, but we're going to talk about him tomorrow. John Feliciano has played center before. But I'm not really going to double dip on those guys because we already talked about them. I did want to talk about Connor Williams because he's really good. But understand that there is some ability to go back and forth between the interior offensive line positions, and some of these guys are going to also apply to other positions as well as the one we primarily discussed them in. I also want to quickly address the Jason Kelce thing because he is a free agent right now and has, technically speaking, not retired, but it seems like he will. Now, if he does become available, I would assume he just goes back to Philadelphia because he doesn't want to join a different team at this point. But if he did become a free agent, I mean, this is a very good player. He's been very durable throughout his career for the most part. He's only turning 37, so it's not actually as bad as you might think. And, I mean, he played great last year. So I would not be against that at all if you want to kick the can down the road option for 1 year. But it really seems like he's just going to retire, and I would be very surprised at this point if he didn't. So not going to spend a ton of time on that. All right, those out of the way. Here are the pure center options as I see it right now in free agency, starting with Aaron Brewer of the Tennessee Titans had a nice little breakout year playing over 1,000 snaps for the Tennessee Titans, almost all at center, good PFF grade, good solid season for offensive line playing mostly with a rookie quarterback. Previous years he played left guard, didn't seem to fare quite as well, wasn't really that high profile of a player before he moved to center in this most recent year and played it pretty much exclusively. So you can see, oh, excuse me, a little bit of a cough here. But yeah, you can see that it seems like he found himself when he moved to the center position. Now, it is a contract year breakout situation where he wasn't this good until he hit his contract year. So I don't think you're going to have to pay a massive amount, but this is a 26-year-old player. He's going to turn 27 mid-season next year. He could be your long-term solution at the position, and Spotrac doesn't think he's going to get paid that much. They have 3 for 15. Closer to 3 for 16, really, but basically $5 million a year for 3 years. Very reasonable. I actually think Aaron Brewer is probably going to get a little bit more because he did play well last year. I think it might be more like 3 years for 18 or 3 years for 20. Not that much more, but it's a decent option. This is a young player who has probably his best years ahead of him. The main concern, of course, would just be the fact that it was kind of a contract year breakout, and you do have to wonder if he's going to bring that same energy after he gets his millions, but he is entering his physical prime. He's only 26 right now. So that would be an intriguing option if you decide you want to build through free agency. Next guys I want to look at here do not have the market value page on Spotrac, but I do think they can get probably in the same area as Aaron Brewer overall if they wanted to. You've got Andre James, who's coming off a real nice season for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's also about to turn 27, so he's going into his prime. Played the whole season at center. Solid PFF grades there. You go back to 2022, not quite as good, but you can see him building towards where he is now, where he's become a really effective center for the Raiders. Lead blocking for Josh Jacobs these last several seasons. And I could see him getting a similar deal to Aaron Brewer, something like 3 years, 18 million. You get him for his entire prime, basically. And you can feel pretty good about that center position as long as he's there, it seems to me. So Andre James I might even like a little bit better than Aaron Brewer because I feel like there was more of a clean progression to him becoming a solid center in this league. Whereas with Aaron Brewer, it feels a little more like he just blew up as a blew up in a contract year. Not to say that Andre James didn't have a career year last year, but it felt a little more natural to me. And I feel like he'd be a pretty good scheme fit as well for what we're trying to do offensively. This next guy is not somebody you would build around long term. This is more like a stopgap option. And the money's kind of weird because he took such a small deal with the Jets last year and then didn't play very much and didn't play very well. It's Connor McGovern. So this guy, I don't know what's up with this thing on his face, by the way. I got no clue about that. But the clue that I do have is that he's coming off a season where he played less than 400 snaps. PFF did not like him. They were not impressed. But you go back to 2022, I mean, it's pretty good, right? He plays the whole season. He plays pretty well at the center position, which is what we're looking for here. This guy is a good center, or has been a good center. The weird thing is, he took basically Vetmin Plus to go back to the Jets last year, and then he sucked. Why is he taking Vetmin Plus? Was it just to play with Aaron Rodgers? Did the market just completely collapse on him? I don't know, but I kind of feel like this guy's going to be able to get some money if he wants it because he has an extended track record of being a pretty good player in this league, and I don't think one kind of weird bad year is going to kill it. Now, he is about to turn 31, so the age is a concern. It might only be a 1 year or a 2 year deal, but I do think he could probably get like 6 or 7 million a year. He did have one semi-decent deal with the Jets in 2020. It was like 3 years, 27 million, and he did see the end of that contract. But this one's just a little bit weird because he is older. He's coming off such a bad year. He took such a small deal to stay with the Jets, so maybe you could get him for like Vetmin Plus again. I don't know. This one's kind of tough. Something tells me he partially went back to New York on the cheap deal because he wanted to play with Rodgers, and, well, then he didn't get to play with Aaron Rodgers. But that one's kind of interesting. And the last guy I want to look at in this video, the last guy in this collection of centers that I would be like really pumped about getting as a long-term center option would be Lloyd Cushenberry of the Denver Broncos. He's been cranking away at that center position over in Denver for a little while now, and he's been playing really good. He's over 1,000 snaps last year, solidly graded. You go back to the previous year, 2022, not quite as good, didn't play quite as much, but still cranking it out, respectable. That was the Nathaniel Hackett year, by the way. I don't know how much we can hold that against him. And the previous year, he was reasonable as well, played over 1,000 snaps. So Lloyd Cushenberry about to turn 27 mid-season next year as well. Former third-round pick on this one, by the way, so there's a little bit of pedigree there that there isn't with some of the previous. But Lloyd Cushenberry would be a guy you get probably in that 3 years, 20 million range, maybe a little bit more. 3 years, 21. I don't know if it pushes up to 3 for 24, but it could. And you've got him for his physical prime, and you've got him for his best years, and you can feel pretty good about your center spot going forward. So to me, Lloyd Cushenberry is kind of the last of this group where I get them and I'm like feeling, yeah, I think good things are going to happen with this guy. He is coming off that rookie deal, so it is probably going to be a situation where he goes for as much money as possible. But I am definitely on board with that idea if you're trying to splash a little bit at that position. And yeah, I think that's really about it. All four guys, well, I'm going to say three guys and leave out Connor McGovern because he's a little different. But the Aaron Brewer, Andre James, Lloyd Cushenberry trifecta, I feel like they're all pretty close to replace. You know, you could swap one out with the other, and I wouldn't be too upset about it. They're all kind of in the same boat. Young guys coming off pretty impressive rookie deals, and they're going to be looking for some money, and you can probably get them for a moderate cost because they're not stars, not yet. And you can feel good about your center position going forward. All right, so the next video we're going to cover kind of a different class of the center spot, guys who would be capable, but I do have to ask, at what point would you rather just roll with Olu? See you guys later. Go Hawks.